Breaking news to tell you about tonight. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, testified on Capitol Hill earlier today. If you're Hillary Clinton and you're on the left side of the aisle, you should be very worried tonight. It is becoming very clear an investigation into the Clinton Foundation, Uranium One, and other issues are happening. Also tonight, we will explain a Hannity investigation into crooked Hillary Clinton's web of corruption. You see all this? We'll explain that. I promise you, information you will not get anywhere else. We will connect the dots for you. We'll tell you how all roads in the major Democratic scandal lead back to one person, Hillary Clinton. She is at the center of everything. We will break it all down. We have a lot to get to, so let's get started tonight. A very important breaking news opening monologue. As you can see, we are at the Hannity Big Board tonight for a very special reason. Tonight, you see all this? All this here? We're going to untangle the giant web of Clinton scandals and corruption. It's unlike anything we have ever done on the show before. It's coming up in just a few minutes. But first, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, he appeared to downplay the idea of appointing a special counsel to investigate the corrupt Uranium One deal and the pay-to-play Clinton Foundation issue. However, sources are telling me tonight Sessions may in fact not be revealing all of his cards. Now, I can tell you this tonight from what I am hearing. Investigations may already be underway, and things apparently are moving very quickly. Now, keep that in mind while you listen to this exchange between Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan and the Attorney General Jeff Sessions about appointing a special counsel. Watch this.
What's it going to take, if all that, not to mention the dossier information, what's it going to take to actually get a special counsel?
It will take a factual basis that meets the standards of the appointment of a special counsel.
Is that analysis going on right now?
Well, it's in the manual of the Department of Justice about what's required. We've only had two. The first one was the Waco, Janet Reno, Senator Danforth, who took over that investigation as special counsel, and Mr. Mueller. Each of those are pretty special factual situations.
Let me ask it this way.
And we will use the proper standards, and that's what only thing I can tell you, Mr. Jordan.
Well, I appreciate
that. You can have your idea, but sometime we have to study what the facts are and to evaluate whether it meets the standard.
Well said. So let me ask you this. If in fact,
a special counsel.
All right, now the Department of Justice has since put out a statement tonight to further explain Attorney General Jeff Sessions' comments. It says, quote, the Attorney General was clarifying the legal basis for appointing a special counsel, not passing judgment on whether it applied in any specific investigation. Now, that statement and Sessions' testimony today is crucial in all of this. Now, Sessions is explaining that just because a special counsel has not been appointed, that does not mean that it won't happen and that the threshold for one won't eventually be met. Now, look, we've been exposing these massive Clinton scandals and, frankly, I believe crimes on this show for over a year. Yes, it's frustrating. People are getting impatient. I totally understand why Congressman Jim Jordan was pressing and demanding answers to important questions. We all want the truth. There needs to be an investigation because we know laws were broken. We know crimes were committed. The evidence is overwhelming. It's incontrovertible. Now, with all that said, things are happening that we can't reveal all the information tonight, but here's what I can tell you. If you listen very closely to Sessions today, he is suggesting that it would take, quote, a factual basis that meets the standards of a special counsel in order for the DOJ to make that type of appointment. Those words, I can assure you, were carefully crafted. Now, sources told me earlier this month, and we reported it right here on this show, that Sessions has not, hear me, has not recused himself in the Uranium One scandal. And if there's an ongoing investigation, Sessions isn't can't reveal all that in an open setting in front of Congress. Now, we're going to have a lot more to say about these things in coming days. Now, Congressman Ron DeSantis, he also had a very interesting exchange with the Attorney General today. Watch this.
In the past, did the FBI or DOJ inform either President Obama, Secretary Clinton, or any cabinet secretary that it had uncovered evidence that Rosatom's main U.S. executive, Vadim Mikirin, was engaged in bribery, kickbacks, and money laundering before the Obama administration approved the Uranium One sale in 2010?
Is that the Micron matter, the matter that was prosecuted in Maryland?
2014, but there was an informant in 2009, 2010. The FBI had evidence of bribery, kickbacks, and money laundering. Was that information conveyed to any of the relative people on the CFIUS board? Clinton, other cabinet secretaries, or was it given to the president?
The way I understand that matter is that the case in which Mr. Micron was convicted was not connected to the CFIUS problem that occurred 2 to 3 years before.
All of that should sound very familiar because it is exactly what the facts are. What we've been telling you on the show for months, that Vladimir Putin and his agents, they orchestrated a bribery, kickback, money laundering, racketeering scheme, all in an attempt to get a foothold in America's uranium market. Now, this, of course, was all going on while Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration were signing off on that corrupt Uranium One deal. Yet nobody did anything to stop Putin and his plan. Now, there's so much important information that we need to explain tonight, and we're going to untangle this web of Clinton corruption and show you how all of it is connected. All right, let's start right up here with the Uranium One scandal. At the very center of this, we have, of course, Hillary Clinton. Now, in 2010, Clinton was serving as the Secretary of State. One of her responsibilities was, as the head of the Department of State, to serve on a committee of foreign investment in the United States. It's known as CFIUS. Now, it was made up of 9 officials from different departments in the federal government. They were tasked with reviewing foreign investments in U.S. companies and resources. One last point here. You see all of this. Now, remember, we don't have enough uranium in this country. We have to import uranium. Now, another notable Obama official that was serving on that board was the Attorney General. That's Eric Holder. And together, along with 7 other Obama officials, well, on this government board, they approved the sale of a company called Uranium One to a foreign nuclear energy company. Pay close attention here. Watch all of this begin to unfold. Now, Uranium One was a Canadian-based uranium mining company, and it controlled an estimated 20% of raw uranium in the United States. By the way, we don't have enough. We import it. In other words, 1/5 of America's supply of the foundational material used to make nuclear weapons, and we import it because we need it. And the company that Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, and other Obama officials allowed to buy Uranium One. It's called Rosatom. That's a Russian state-run atomic energy conglomerate. That's controlled by Vladimir Putin and the Russians. You know, the bad actors, the hostile regime. Now, to put this simply, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and others, 9 total, approved a Russian takeover of 20% of America's uranium supply in 2010. Now, it's all while Vladimir Putin was becoming more and more hostile on the world stage. Why would anyone, let alone members of our government, think it's a good idea to let Putin control 20% of our uranium supplies when we don't have enough? It never made sense. It still doesn't make sense. It's not like America has a lot of uranium to begin with. Guess what? Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, if you look at all of this up here, and the rest of the Obama administration, I argue created a national security crisis. This is insanity. And then in 2010, during the very same time that the Uranium One deal was being reviewed by the government board, former President Bill Clinton, he sought approval from his own wife's State Department to meet in Moscow with high-ranking board members of this group, Rosatom, that controls all their energy there. The request was made while Bill Clinton prepared to give a $500,000 paid speech in Moscow, twice his usual speaking fee. The bank involved, by the way, had a financial interest in all of this, Uranium One, and it was called Renaissance Capital, and they have links to the Kremlin, and it was actively lobbying for the Russians to take over Uranium One. Now, ultimately, the speech took place, but meeting with Rosatom never happened. Instead, Bill Clinton just sat down with Vladimir Putin himself. Now, the last piece of this web of corruption is the Clinton Foundation. Now, between 2009 and 2013, the chairman of Uranium One used his family foundation to make millions of dollars in donations to the Clinton Foundation before and after Hillary approved the sale of the company to Putin and Russia. And that's not not all. Other Uranium One investors, guess what? They also donated millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. Now, where I come from, that sounds like a quid pro quo. That's what we call pay to play. Now, look at all of that. You see that? Okay, that's only part of it. Now let's turn to the second ongoing Clinton scandal. Now, no matter how much Hillary Clinton deflects and ignores this issue, the scandal surrounding a private server will not go away because she broke the law and she got away with it. This all started in 2008. Private server, email account, set up under the name of a former Clinton aide. In 2009, Hillary Clinton becomes Secretary of State. She uses that personal email account to conduct official State Department business where she sent and received top secret, special access program, classified information. You're not allowed to do that. This came to light in 2015 after the House Select Committee on Benghazi subpoenaed Hillary Clinton's emails related to the Benghazi terror attack. Following the subpoena, an employee of Platte River Networks, that's that small mom and pop shop in a bathroom tech company, well, they were responsible for servicing Hillary Clinton's private server. And let's see, they deleted, what, over 30,000 emails using something that's called BleachBit. It's like acid washing your hard drive. Then, once all of this was revealed, and because of concerns that Hillary may have mishandled top secret government information, the FBI actually opened a criminal investigation to find out what's going on here. You're not allowed to do this. The person in charge of the investigation was then FBI Director James Comey. See how this is all beginning to come together here? Oh, pretty interesting. Now, during the course of the investigation, the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, asked James Comey, hey, don't call this an investigation. Call it a matter. Oh, take the Clinton talking points, and Comey willfully complied. Then 1 week before James Comey announced the FBI's decision on whether or not to pursue charges against Hillary Clinton, then the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who you can see right here, and former President Bill Clinton, you can see right there. They had that meeting on the tarmac for a private meeting lasting 40 minutes. When pressed about it, Lynch said, oh, we were only talking innocent small talk about golf and our grandchildren. And then after a week of this meeting, a week after, Comey announced the FBI would not recommend charges for Hillary Clinton, even though he spent a good 13 and a half minutes explaining how Clinton had top secret, a special access program, classified information stored on that unsecured server that anyone could have hacked. And by the way, we believe 5 foreign intelligence agencies did. And we also since found out that the original draft of Comey's announcement, well, it described Clinton's actions as grossly negligent. Okay, that is the legal standard. But then after 3 drafts, it was changed to extremely careless. They didn't want to cite what the actual law said. And we also know that Comey made his decision not to recommend charges against Clinton before he ever interviewed the key witnesses in the case, including Clinton herself. The fix was clearly in. And that's why all of this here needs to be investigated. Look how important. Look how this all begins to tie together. One common thread: Hillary Clinton. Now, our third scandal involves Fusion GPS and the fake news Russian propaganda anti-Trump dossier. Now, of course, at the very center of this scandal, there you go, it's Hillary Clinton again. And during her failed run for the White House, the Clinton campaign paid millions and millions of dollars to a law firm. It was named Perkins Coie for legal fees. Now, the Clinton-controlled DNC also paid millions of dollars to this same very law firm during that same period. A lawyer within the firm then employed a consulting company, you've heard about it, Fusion GPS, which in turn utilized the services of a former foreign spy. There's Christopher Steele. Steele used the current and former Russian government sources to create the now infamous, totally discredited, fake news, Russian lies, propaganda, misinformation dossier. That was all in an attempt. They paid for it, she paid for it, to influence you, the American people, and the election, and lie to you and propagandize to you. Now, prior to the election, this dossier was secretly shopped around, eventually ended up in the hands of Senator John McCain. McCain passes the document to the FBI Director, James Comey, and now there are concerns that this fake dossier was used as evidence in order to justify a Russia collusion investigation into the Trump campaign. In other words, was this dossier actually used in a FISA court to get a warrant to surveil the Trump campaign or an opposition party? This dossier was not made fully available to the public until BuzzFeed ended up publishing it on January 10th, of 2017, well after the election. Well, now we turn our focus, see this? Another one, another troubling scandal, and questions that are raised over a former Democratic IT staffer. Now we begin this time with Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Change of pace, one of Hillary Clinton's top allies in the Democratic Party. Now, she employed an IT staffer named Uranium One. Now, One and several of his relatives, all right, they all worked for congressional Democrats as IT staffers for years, and they reportedly earned between $2 and $4 million, all while having access to House servers. And earlier this year, well, news broke of an investigation into One and his family. They were double billing. How did they do that? And stealing House equipment. Democratic lawmakers rightly fired One and his relatives, and he was denied access to the House servers. But as Fox News has reported, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she kept him on her payroll. Then in March of this year, One's wife and their children flew to Pakistan, where One had been sending a lot of money. And finally, One was arrested in July at Dulles Airport in Virginia. He was trying to board a flight to Pakistan and was charged with bank fraud, all while some fear that he was responsible for exposing House Democrats' information online. Now, meanwhile, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is defending her decision to keep this guy on the payroll despite the fact that he was under investigation and only fired him after his arrest. And now, in tonight's final, if you will, scandal, we have more shocking evidence when it comes, she's back, to Hillary Clinton as it relates to the fix being in. The Democratic Party is now in disarray following revelations that Hillary Clinton rigged and stole the 2016 primary. Now, this scandal started all the way back in 2015 when Hillary Clinton declared her candidacy for president. Now, at the time, one of Clinton's strongest supporters was none other than Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She was serving as the chair of the Democratic National Committee. Hillary Clinton, well, she wanted nothing more to be president. But the socialist senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, he was standing in her way. Poor Bernie, right? The primary fight was close. And in July of 2016, just days before the Democratic National Convention, WikiLeaks releases thousands of emails allegedly hacked from key DNC staff members. Those emails, they exposed how the DNC was working against him. The fix was in for her. Now, in response to the DNC hacking, well, did Wasserman Schultz and the DNC go to the FBI to investigate alleged cyber attacks? No, of course not. Why would they do that? Instead, they hired a law firm. Again, Perkins Coie. Sound familiar? Remember them? That's the same law firm from the discredited Fusion GPS anti-Trump dossier. They're the ones that were connected there. And as you can imagine, people were outraged over what was discovered in the leak, and Wasserman Schultz, she had to step down on the eve of the convention. She was replaced by Donna Brazile. Donna Brazile just wrote a book. In that book, Donna Brazile slammed Wasserman Schultz, as you can see here, and by saying that she let Clinton headquarters in Brooklyn do whatever they wanted. They were running the DNC. She revealed that a secret contract existed between the Clinton campaign, right here, and the DNC. And Brazile exposed how Hillary Clinton and her campaign had total control of the DNC's finances, strategy, personnel decisions, budgeting, data analytics, and mailings. And for all of you who would have voted for this man, Bernie Sanders, you were cheated. The DNC sold you out, and Clinton literally stole the primary election. Look, these are all massive scandals. For years, we have been warning you about the web of corruption committed by the Clinton crime family that they've gotten away with for decades. And now, take a look at this. It shows the entire scale of the Clintons' willingness to do anything and everything to gain power and wealth at all costs. Look at this. Pretty amazing. There's so much to investigate. All right, we have a jam-packed show tonight. Up next, you're going to hear from three congressmen. They are leading the charge to hold the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, accountable over these scandals. Also tonight, as it relates to Senate candidate from Alabama, Roy Moore. I have an important commentary you do not want to miss, I promise. Straight ahead.
Doesn't that warrant naming a second special counsel, as 20 members of this committee wrote you 3.5 months ago asking you to do?
Well, Mr. Comey is no longer the director of the FBI.
Thank goodness.
We have an excellent man of integrity and ability in Chris Wray, and I think he's going to do an outstanding job, and I'm very happy
He's not
about
here today,
that.
Attorney General.
And I would say,
you are, and I'm asking for a special
time of the gentleman
and I would
has
say
expired.
looks like is not enough basis to appoint a special counsel.
All right, that was Freedom Caucus member Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan today grilling the Attorney General Jeff Sessions on why the Justice Department has not appointed a special counsel to investigate the scandals I just outlined for you surrounding Hillary Clinton. Congressman Jordan is here, along with Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz and Ron DeSantis. Thank you all for being there. All right, Jim, let me start with you.
Yeah.
A week ago Friday, my sources, multiple sources, told me, A, he did not recuse himself from Uranium One. B, I have sources telling me that there is and has been an ongoing investigation. Do you believe that to be true?
Well, we hope the second part is true, but the first part, whether he's recused himself from Uranium One issue or not, he gave contradictory answers to my colleague, Mr. Gaetz, under his questioning today. So we'll see. The key is, though,
but in fairness, is it something he would be able to tell us? It would not, correct?
Well, on one hand, he said he was not recused from that. On the other hand, he said, well, maybe I'd have to check to see if I'm supposed to be recused from that. So, again, Mr. Gaetz asked him those questions, and within that same 5 minutes, he said two different things.
Matt, Congressman? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Jim's absolutely right. We had a lack of clarity from the Attorney General, and just like you're frustrated, Sean, we're frustrated. We've been calling for 3.5 months for an investigation into these scandals because if we allow them to continue, we erode the rule of law. The Attorney General at one point said that he would have the power to appoint a special counsel, and then later he said he wasn't sure, and that may be subject to a recusal. So we left today without a straight answer on whether or not there would be a special counsel or even what the time frame would be. That's frustrating.
Let me go to the substance, Congressman DeSantis, about all of this. I won't regurgitate. It took me 20 minutes to lay this all out tonight. There's so much detail, but to me the evidence is so overwhelming. The idea that we've spent a year and there's no evidence of Trump, Russia collusion. Dianne Feinstein said it a week ago on Chris Wallace's show. And here we are, a year later. No smoke, 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 no fire, fire, fire. The evidence here is overwhelming. Fusion GPS, Uranium One, the email server scandal. Comey should be investigated. Your thoughts?
Well, you're right, Sean. I mean, let's just take Trump-Russia collusion. Not only is there not evidence of collusion, but we know that, or we think that the dossier that was used to justify some of this surveillance was done through the Democratic Party paying Christopher Steele, and obviously he had to pay some of these Russians to be able to get some of this information. We need to know, and Jeff Sessions would not answer, whether the FBI paid Christopher Steele for that, how much did they pay him, and whether they used it for the FISA warrant.
Don't we have a right to know? Doesn't the American taxpayer have a right to know if they paid this guy that paid Russians for salacious lies about Donald Trump to influence the election and the American people, to propagandize, lie, misinformation, distort? Don't we have a right to know? I think we do.
Absolutely.
Well, Sean, that would be the...
This is the American taxpayer. We need to know what the FBI is spending money on, and if you look at it, if, in fact, this was Democrat Party funded, you have the FBI working with one political party against another, and, oh, by the way, in collusion with Russians who are providing this information.
And, Congressman Jordan, it's the very thing they've said that Donald Trump did, and they have no evidence.
Won't be the first time the left accuse us of what they're actually doing. Look, we don't know if this happened for sure, but everything points that way, and Ron's exactly right. If one major party is working with, financing and working with the FBI to go after the other major party, taking a National Enquirer type document, turning it into an intelligence document to spy on Americans associated with President Trump's campaign, that is as wrong as it gets. And again, if that doesn't warrant investigation, if that doesn't warrant a special counsel to look into it, I do not know what does.
To me, Congressman Gaetz, it is this serious. Are we going to have in America today a dual justice system? Or are we going to have equal justice under the law? Because if I deleted 33,000 emails that were subpoenaed by Congress, if I used BleachBit, if I destroyed devices with a hammer, how does the FBI director Mueller at the time know Russian agents of Putin are trying to corner the uranium market. We have to import uranium. We don't have enough. 9 people sign off on this thing. Then you got the transfer of money with people involved back to the Clintons. And then they funded a phony dossier full of Russian lies to hijack an election. And now we know she already hijacked a primary. The poor Bernie Sanders. He got ripped off. It was rigged from day one.
Sean, you're absolutely right, and this is what makes the American people sick. This notion that there is one set of rules for the Clintons and another set of rules for everybody else. And you look at this investigation. When we look at this investigation, you've got the very people who may have been involved in keeping information from Congress, keeping information from the CFIUS process, but they're in the process of investigating the President of the United States. They're undermining our democracy now when they very well may be witnesses to the actual collusion with one of the participants in the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton.
This better happen. Last word, Congressman DeSantis.
Well, I think everything you laid out, Sean. Uranium One, we're working hard in the Congress. We're bringing the informant in. We're going to get his documents. We're going full bore on that. We will get the stuff for Fusion GPS. They're going to have to turn that over. And then finally, Comey and his memos and how he exonerated Hillary. We're getting all of that information, and we can't let up.
All right, guys, thank you. We're not letting up. All right, when we come back, we will continue to give you news and information and facts you can't get anywhere else, sadly, because the news media in this country is so abusively biased. We'll check in with Peter Schweitzer. He first broke the Uranium One story. Sebastian Gorka will weigh in. Tonight, I have a very serious, important announcement about Roy Moore as we continue. All right, as I said at the top of the show, the left is scared out of their minds about the possibility of further investigation or a special counsel investigation into the Uranium One deal. You got hosts over at NBC, MSNBC. They're wondering where the call for a special counsel is coming from. You're going to love this. Take a look.
If Jeff Sessions is not involved in this, does that mean someone else at the DOJ right now is pushing this Obama uranium review to mollify President Trump or, I don't know, President Hannity or somebody else's political agenda? Or is Jeff Sessions involved and violating that pledged recusal?
President Hannity. I like the sound of that. It just for a second, it sounds good. No, it would be the fact that America imports uranium because we have a short supply. We don't have enough. Why would we ever give it away? And remember, we were promised it would never go overseas. It went to Canada, it went to Europe, and it likely went to Asia. Joining us now, the man who got this started, author of the book, Clinton Cash, Peter Schweitzer, Fox News contributor, former deputy assistant to the president, Sebastian Gorka. Peter, you got this started. You watched this unfold today. I want to get your initial reaction. I also want to talk about, I want you to give us the money aspect to this as it relates to the Clintons, who paid who, when, and where, and how active and involved were they in this deal?
Well, look, Sean, I've always felt that the evidence is very clear, and I don't quite know what the hesitation is at the Department of Justice. There are several facts that no one debates. Fact number one, you have the Kazakh uranium minister Mukhtar Zakashev in a 2010 video deposition describing in great detail how Bill and Hillary Clinton shook him down and shook down Kazakh officials to compel them to give uranium assets to Frank Justra, who is the founder of Uranium One. Nobody disputes that. That is clear. We now have this whistleblower that's come forward who reportedly has audio recordings of Russian officials talking about using bribery to get favors from the Clintons, giving donations to the Clinton Foundation. That is yet to appear, but I think that's going to be pretty strong. The third part of this ingredient is we have the actual flow of money, tens of millions of dollars to the Clintons as this deal is going down. I would dare say, Sean, anybody in Washington, D.C. in elected office, from President Trump to Vice President Pence to members of Congress or the Senate, if that body of evidence existed, there would be an investigation today on corruption charges and bribery. I just think it's that crystal clear.
Hey, Dr. Gorka, let's go back to the simple part of Uranium One in this sense. We import uranium, the foundational material for nuclear weapons. That means we don't have enough. Why would anybody ever think it's a good idea to give Vladimir Putin 20%, especially as we have now learned through investigative reporting, Putin's agents in America were involved in bribery, extortion, racketeering, money laundering, and kickbacks. These are now facts. Mueller knew it, and Eric Holder knew it. Why would we give away uranium or rights to uranium when, in fact, we need uranium?
Why? Because the key people involved in that sale were paid off to the tune of millions. I want to make a statement here, Sean. Peter needs to be recognized for the person that put this all together. But what you just did in the 2 segments ago, those graphics, Sean, I pray to the good Lord that one day they will be used in a court of law to bring justice back to America. The New York Times, CNN, the Washington Post will not show you the truth, and you and your team put it out there so everyone can see it. I've said it before, and it made the left blow up, but I'll say it again. The Rosenbergs were executed for giving away the secrets on how to make a bomb. The Clinton crime cartel sold those things that you need to make a bomb, which is American uranium. And they gave it to a Russian government that is in league with rogue nations. But none of that should ever have been sold to anybody.
Mueller knew as the FBI director. It was an FBI informant. That means Holder had to know. They have not only his 4+ years experience as an undercover agent informant, they also have tapes, and they also have documents, and they also have emails, and they slapped an NDA on this guy. It was like putting a muzzle on him. Wait till he now discloses this. I'm imagining this is devastating. Sebastian first.
Look, you've done the amazing mapping of all the corruption, the pay-for-play, the email server, and everything else. You can do it again with simply network analysis. Look at who was in key decision-making positions for the last 8 years. Look at the connections between the directors of the FBI, Comey, Mueller. Look at the AGs, Holder, Lynch. Look at who, this is really important. Look at who Rod Rosenstein's best buddies are for the last 10 years, and the fact that he's still at the top of the Department of Justice today in a Trump administration. Just the network analysis tells you that there is something rotten in the heart of Denmark, and it is now time to clean it out.
It is so extensive because I keep talking about this dual justice system, Peter. It is the dossier, propaganda, bought and paid for by Hillary, the DNC, uranium. It doesn't make sense to give away our uranium, ever. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sean. And look, the Clinton defense thus far has been pitiful. Essentially, they say, first of all, well, 9 government agencies reviewed this. It's no big deal. That has nothing to do with bribery. The fact of the matter is bribery exists whether it's a close vote or not. The second defense is Hillary Clinton saying that she was not involved in this decision. I'm sorry, but she does not have a great track record of speaking the truth. And the person that they sort of prop out, Assistant Secretary of State Fernandez, to say she was not involved in this decision 4 days before he first made that statement, Sean. He's in the Podesta email saying he wants to do whatever he can to help Hillary Clinton get elected. He's not a disinterested party. This has to be investigated.
Media's been so wrong. The day of vindication is getting closer and closer. Mark my words. Jay Sekulow, John Solomon, Sarah Carter are next. And I have an important message tonight. New developments in the Roy Moore case. You don't want to miss what I have to say. It's too important. Straight ahead. As we continue tonight on Hannity here with reaction to today's hearing with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, Attorney for President Trump, Jay Sekulow, The Hill's John Solomon, Circa News' Sarah Carter, and of course John and Sarah have been at the forefront of this investigating reporting on all of these issues. Jay is an attorney. First, let's get your reaction.
Made the point.
Go ahead.
Jeff Sessions made the point both in a letter that was sent by the Department of Justice to the committee, as well as in his testimony, that they are going to be looking at these issues that have been reported now extensively involving Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation. I think what's interesting here is there's a lot of discussion about whether there'll be an appointment of a special counsel, and there may be. May be determined under the Department of Justice guidelines that a special counsel is necessary to evaluate that because of the FBI, Department of Justice, role in the approval process on Uranium One. So it raises the specter of the possibility of a need for a special counsel here. But I think, look, the Department of Justice is obviously looking at it. It's serious, and I think that's good for the country. People need answers.
And, John, you reported with Sarah way back when. You went right through it. That, in fact, by the way, Sarah's mic's down, so we were trying to fix her audio. Sarah, you're on television. Don't do that. Oh, you're back?
Sorry about that. I'm back.
No,
I can hear you now.
We lost Sarah's audio. I'll ask John first, and we'll check your audio again. All right, but, John, from the very beginning, is it possible when you first reported on warrants, FISA warrants, other warrants, that maybe the phony dossier was used? Maybe, I mean, that would be bought and paid for lies used in a court to surveil an opposition candidate. Could it get that bad?
Well, the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chairman Chuck Grassley, asked this question months ago, and the FBI and the Justice Department have yet to answer the question. And I think people want to know that answer. There were two things that struck me about the hearing today. First, General Sessions said there were 27 criminal leak investigations.
Finally.
A 300% increase over the 9 that had been done in the 3 years before. Does 300% sound familiar, Sean? Remember back in the summer when Sarah and I were reporting the total number of searches on American records? 300%. That's what happens when Americans' records get unmasked, they get searched, the temptation to leak increases.
Listen.
Second thing,
Yeah,
he fumbled.
Finish. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he fumbled the entire factual basis of understanding why the nuclear bribery case is related to the decision on Uranium One. Someone needs to brief him on the facts. In 2009, the FBI had the criminal evidence way before the prosecution in 2014. And the question is, what did they do with that information?
And, Sarah, they had that information in 2009, a year and a half before Uranium One happened. And this is where Mueller gets caught up in it, Rosenstein gets caught up in it, and Eric Holder gets caught up in it. And how can they be investigating anything Russia at that point?
Well, that's right, Sean. And not only that, you think about this. You have the informant who is undercover. At least for 15 months, they had been investigating this. They had ample evidence at that time. And enough so that according to the informant's attorney, the informant himself, it was being briefed all the way up to the top. We believe even to President Obama himself. So I think the question is this. Why wasn't CFIUS aware of that when they made their decision? And apparently they weren't. I mean, this is the reason why we need an investigation. We need to see how far this went, who was informed, who was not informed, and why. And I think that as we start moving closer and closer to the informant's testimony, John made a very good point. It did not seem that Attorney General Sessions was aware of all the facts of this case.
Let's talk about this informant. 4+ years, FBI informant. Documents, tapes, firsthand knowledge, emails. And he was stunned, if I'm not mistaken, Sarah. Why didn't they do anything with this?
Well, exactly. And remember, this isn't an informant that they had to strong arm. This isn't somebody that did something wrong that the FBI got to turn around. I mean, this is somebody who approached the Justice Department and said, I have information. I know what's going on. I'm a patriot. I want to deliver that information to you, and I want out. And it was the Justice Department and the FBI who asked him to stay on. Please stay on. Please continue to help us build a case.
And he did.
And he did for 4 years.
Jay, what's your reaction?
Well, let me go back to something you said earlier that I think has to have everybody concerned here. And that is, if in fact FISA warrants were issued by a FISA court based on the Steele dossier, we've had a fundamental miscarriage of justice and puts a serious risk into our whole constitutional basis upon which these courts are supposed to operate. A paid-for dossier that's been discredited becomes the basis not just of a warrant, but of a foreign surveillance warrant, a FISA warrant, foreign intelligence surveillance warrant, that included Americans that ended up getting unmasked. Would any of this be admissible
if that were true?
Well, I would be filing motions to quash all of that evidence and suppress all of that evidence, and I'm sure if that comes up, lawyers will be doing it. But the fact that that may have happened, if in fact it turns out that that's the case, Sean, wow. I think we've reached a whole new level of a constitutional crisis.
John.
Yeah, listen, it's a very important question that needs to be answered in the American public, and you have to put it in the context of this. Look at what Sarah and I reported earlier this year. All of the violations that the NSA, the FBI, and the CIA at the very end of the Obama administration suddenly dropped on the court. You take that, the possibility that maybe a dossier was used for some form of a warrant support. They're really important integrity questions, and I think the public deserves to know, and I think Congress is trying to get the answers.
Final word, Sarah.
Well, yes, and today we know that Glenn Simpson spent 7 hours. He is the founder of Fusion GPS. I want to know what was said behind those closed doors and what he revealed and what he and Natalia Veselnitskaya discussed. And remember, all of these pieces of the puzzle, Sean, they're all starting to fit together.
By the way, I have sources saying all of us are being surveilled illegally, just in case you're interested. Just telling you. Anyway, hope that's good news. All right, I have a very serious announcement. It deals with Roy Moore. When we get back, you don't want to miss it. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Before we close tonight, I want to address the new, very serious sexual misconduct allegations against Judge Roy Moore. If you watch this program regularly, you know I do not and will never rush to judgment, because we have seen the media and politicians get it wrong so many times. I've outlined all of that. Now, in light of new information about Judge Roy Moore, we have to address this issue again tonight. We should be troubled by two things in this case. When the Washington Post story first broke, I said that the allegations should be taken seriously. They should be fully investigated. This is a 14-year-old girl. We need to discover the truth. I also said I can understand when women wait years to come forward because of the evil that in cases where they are guilty, the men are guilty, it's evil trauma. I can understand people having a difficult time talking about it, even years later. So this past Friday, I had Judge Roy Moore on my radio program, and I methodically, step by step, went through point by point every allegation against him and let him respond. Listen to part of that interview.
The Washington Post alleges that back in 1979, when she was 14 years old, that she had sexual encounters with the then 32-year-old Roy Moore. What do you make of these allegations?
Well, Sean, first let me say this. These allegations are completely false and misleading.
Would it be unusual for you as a 32-year-old guy to have dated a woman as young as 17? That would be a, 15-year difference, or a girl 18. Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no.
You don't specifically remember having any girlfriend that was in her late teens even at that time?
No, I don't remember that, and I don't remember ever dating any girl without the permission of her mother. And I think in her statement, she said that her mother actually encouraged her to go out with me.
Now, he gave a third answer. For me, when he said, well, not generally, not without permission of the mother, it seemed inconsistent. And a lot of other people saw the same thing. It took 3 times. On the third time, he unequivocally then denied that he had ever dated somebody in their late teens, even though I was pressing again and again. Now, here yesterday, we have another accuser that came forward. She is alleging that Roy Moore sexually assaulted her when she was 16 years old and he was in his 30s. Here is how Judge Moore responded to that accusation.
I want to address what's been brought out on television today by Gloria Allred and a client that she has about things I allegedly did. I want to make it perfectly clear. The people of Alabama know me. They know my character. They know what I've stood for in the political world for over 40 years. And I can tell you without hesitation, this is absolutely false. I never did what she said I did. I don't even know the woman. I don't know anything about her.
He denied knowing this fifth accuser, but this accuser has now brought forth a yearbook that Moore appeared to sign, quote, to a sweeter, more beautiful girl. I could not say Merry Christmas. Love, Roy Moore, DA. I looked at the handwriting. I know some people on Twitter have said things about this. Here's where I am tonight. Between this interview that I did and the inconsistent answers, between him saying, I never knew this girl, and then that yearbook comes out. For me, the judge has 24 hours. You must immediately and fully come up with a satisfactory explanation for your inconsistencies that I just showed. You must remove any doubt. If you can't do this, then Judge Moore needs to get out of this race. This country has way too many issues and problems. The American people deserve 100% truth and honesty. We need correct answers the first time on issues this serious. Judge Moore, you owe that to the people of Alabama, the Republican Party that you represent, and to the country which is suffering under so many problems. We deserve answers, consistent answers.